maybe you need to adjust that location and the time of the day even sometimes. So several of you have told me that makes a difference with your math especially. So maybe you need to adjust when you're working on different pieces. But we've talked in this class about test taking, you know, that was an issue he wrote on here. So we've come up with some ideas of how to at least alleviate some of that test anxiety. Again, you're never going to eliminate all of it, but we've come up with those data dumping and some of those pieces that would probably be good for him, because a lot of people do, when they get anxious, draw a blank. Okay, we've talked about that as well.
Okay. Ready to move on to the next person?
All right, let's go to Amelia.
For long-term goals, maybe she can establish an appropriate schedule to put everything in order.
Okay, so establish a schedule.
Yeah. And along with that, maybe work on her organization.
Good. Because she's the one who had so much going on in her life, right? That she couldn't get organized. All right.
And for short term, we could allow a certain amount of time to study every day.
Good.
And priorities.
Yes, yes, setting the priorities. One of the things I think that happens sometimes is that we tend to think, oh, it's too late, I can't make any changes now. But we still have 5 weeks left in the semester, and it's not too late. If you have done well and then all of a sudden the factoring was a bugaboo for you, then that is a sign that, okay, I need to work on this. And I can work on this because it's foundational, and I can continue to go. But the short term and the long term are really important, and I like the way that you talked about prioritizing.
So in that comment, you know, if you didn't look at the videos, which most of you said you did not, if you still did not get what you wanted on this test as a grade, pull that email up now, and this weekend look at them. Because sometimes just a little bit different phrasing will help it click. Okay? So, you know, you staring at a paper is not going to help you learn factoring. You've got to practice it. But I think that one thing that sometimes is important is to kind of map out your week at the beginning of the week if you're stressed and have a lot going on. Okay. You know, we just finished with my kids their soccer, so that took up 2 nights. So we knew, though, that, you know, on those days we got to get home, start our homework, do this. We had a set plan. Or we did more of our homework ahead of time the day before on those pieces. But, you know, when you have meetings or work or something like that, you have to kind of set a plan for the week, you know, because if not, it's gone, and then you're like, okay, what am I going to do now? So you've got to kind of carve out the time slots for each course that you have.
Okay, Michael.
Oh yeah, then for long-term and short-term, we have the same one for anger management, because he's really aggravated just about everything.
He does.
For short-term, he needs to take responsibility for himself instead of blaming everybody else.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even pay him to answer that.
For a long-term one, he needs to have like a tutor or study partner, so that way he can maintain somebody along his level instead of like an age gap in between somebody that's his level and an older professor. So that way it's along his line, so he can understand.
Okay.
For short-term, he needs to have time management, because he needs to watch that instead of just getting frustrated with everybody else. He needs to maintain time management.
And we tend to do that. It's human nature. When things don't go our way, we tend to look for somebody else to blame. Do what? Blaming others. That's exactly it. Yes. That's your favorite thing. It's much easier to live with ourselves when we can blame everybody else, right? So, but I really appreciate you all recognizing and expressing that he needs to take responsibility for his own action.
Well, none of these people were actually good in the story.
No.
Well, but I want to say,
normally when you read one of these stories, they have at least one good
One
person.
hero.
But we see this in every semester. It may not be, may not be so lucky to have them all in the same class, but we see this. Actually, in one of our QEP sections, we had somebody that fit this category, and
He was a Michael.
But through the QEP, I really do think, truly, we helped him with several different areas, and he admitted it, and he actually ended up helping others with some of that. He realized how he needed to stop when he started realizing that he was raising that anger level and slow down. But he fought us in the beginning. But I can say to me, from some of the modules that we had, I really saw a huge progression with him. So, you know, we don't necessarily get it in everybody, but we see this in our classes, and if you think about it, you probably have somebody that fits one of these in one of your classes that you're in right now. And it does also affect the others around you. So it's something that sometimes you can help as well as somebody that's sitting there. We're not saying that you need to be the counselor, but sometimes just saying, you know, hey, why don't we look at it this way, you know, can sometimes help diffuse the situation as well.
Kia?
For the short-term goals for Kia, we said she should go to a tutor. And then another short-term goal is that she should go talk to her advisor to see what she should do since they just took the midterm. Maybe she could still drop it, maybe take it next course, which is a lot of late.
Okay.
And then for long-term goals, we said she should go to counseling for depression. And another long-term goal is that she should throw away all of her Beyonce stuff since it gets in the way of her studies.
That's right. That's right. Get rid of the Beyonce.
Y'all met an advisor last week when Dr. Kennedy came in. A lot of people don't realize that we actually have some of the counseling and so forth here, and if they can't do it here, that they can refer you to somebody as well. So some of those fees that you've already paid for them in your fees, you know, you should go over and speak to somebody. You know, it doesn't have to be exactly like this, but if you have a situation, last semester we had a situation with somebody, she wouldn't have spoken to us, she wouldn't have been able to continue in school. She had an issue with both her husband and her losing her job. They weren't able to pay the mortgage, to keep and then they had somebody helping with that, but they couldn't keep the computer on to do my math lab. So the foundation has a scholarship for very specific cases like that. If she hadn't spoken to us, we wouldn't have been able to help. So it goes along with that idea that you should ask. The worst thing we can say is we can't do anything, but sometimes we can actually, you know, direct you in a direction that would give you some assistance.
And those are resources that not only Lake Sumter has, but any college or university, if you transfer, will have similar resources. And as Mrs. Starsick said, they are included in your student fees. And I believe the Student Assistance Program, depending on the situation, I know that there are at least 3 and sometimes more sessions that you can have with a counselor. If our counselors, like Dr. Kennedy who came in, is a certified counselor. So he can do that. And I've had students who've had eating disorders, abuse issues, etc., who have met with him, and sometimes they are referred out to through the Student Assistant Program. So with issues that are like this, how do I deal with this? How do I get these coping skills or these strategies? We can help you with that. Because remember at the beginning of the semester, we talked about how we need to be a whole student. And if something is falling apart at home, it's going to be very difficult for you to learn factoring. Okay, so that's part of what